Welcome to the 2024 Ambrogio remote app on Android devices. So from the home page of your smartphone, we'll open up the app, the Ambrogio remote app. It'll check for firmware. The robot we're going to look at today to show the settings and setup is our Ambrogio robot Frankie. So we'll click onto Frankie. This will now, if we're near to the robot, which we need to be for this purpose, go through the setup. So this is the home page, and that shows us the status of the battery, the status of GSM, and the GPS status. Here I have a map of a lawn, 700 square meters, which we're going to divide into three areas: area 1, area 2, area 3. And I'm going to go through the app to show you how to set the time according to the working time schedule and how to edit the areas 1, 2 and 3. We're now on the home page of the robot we call Frankie, and we can see it's charging in the base station. We can see that there's the battery is 75%. There's 4 bars as opposed to the 5 bars on there. That we've got full GMS. But there's no GPS because we've actually got this robot inside. There's some action buttons at the bottom, but for the purpose of this tutorial, we're actually going to go to the setup next. So if we go into the setup, we can see there we've got 3 different areas to go: garden centers, profile settings and general settings. We've just shown you a map in this tutorial, which is 700 square meters with 3 start points, A1, 2 and 3. So now we're going to actually set those up. So if we go into the garden settings and we look at area 1, if we go back to our mapping, we can see that in A1, that's A1 is a start point. The dimensions for that are 250 square meters. That the distance we want that to travel to get to start the operation is 10 meters. We want that to travel in an anti-clockwise motion. So if we just untoggle clockwise, that's now anti-clockwise. It doesn't say anti-clockwise, but it is. And we want the distance to go to there to be on the wire. So we want the robot to travel on the wire. So we're going to call that off. We tick the box. And so we don't use eco mode. The eco mode that we've got there is only applied for very, very small areas. So in general, we don't use eco, so we leave it default on. So here we can save the changes. We then go to area 2, and we'll edit that. So the edit for that is again 250 square meters. The distance to area 2 is 60 meters along the wire. And this we want to travel, if you go back to the map, in a clockwise position. So that's default is already on. And we can have that traveling minimum. So going to the start point, which is 60 meters away. I'll just edit that because it's actually 50 meters, not 60 meters. So I'll just edit that again. Okay. Going to the wire, we'll go back to that point there, is in the minimums. That means it's going to travel inside the lawn parallel to the wire. So we'll save that change. We'll then look at area 3 and we'll edit that. 250. This is a distance of 50 meters, I think. I'll just check that. No, this is 60 meters. So 60 meters. And we want this to go anti-clockwise. The nearest way for that to go is anti-clockwise. So we'll untoggle that. I'll say it doesn't say that it's in the box that it's anti-clockwise, but by taking the default off we know it is. Tick the box, and the distance that we want that to go is again in minimum, so we're asking that to travel parallel to the wire to get to that start point and save those changes. So that's completed. Save them all again. So each time we make a change, we want to go into the top of the ribbon where it says settings and change the savings, so we can see they're changed, and that completes the garden settings setup. So back onto the settings page, we're now going to look at the profile settings. So click into the profile settings. We've got three lots of settings that we can change there. So we're going to change profile 1. We've got A1 and 2 and 3, which are selected. Those are the only ones. We can call this a name. So we can put main if we want. This is our main setup. The rain sensor can be on or off. We'll have the rain sensor on. And going to the wire, this is the way that the robot travels back to the base station. So in this case, we've got no obstacles near the edge of the lawn, so we can ask the robot from anywhere in the garden to travel back to the base station running parallel to the wire. So I'll put that as minimum. And if we go into Monday and look at the times, the setup for this time in schedule 1, we're only going to use schedule 1 in this case, is 9 o'clock. Okay. Until 1900. So that time set from 9 in the morning until 1900, that's 7 o'clock in the evening. At this stage we won't put the border cut on, and that will operate in areas 1, 2 and 3. So we're happy with that. We can just save those changes. So that's, if you can see in those bars now that Monday is changed, the bar length is different to the rest. So if we click on Monday again and go to the bottom, we can say, we can copy those days there to every other day by toggling these all on, so that it's cutting the same hours each day, and save the changes. We can now see they're all the same other than Sunday. So we'll just go down again, go back onto Monday, copy to, and we'll just find the Sunday. I'll just redo those. And save the changes. Now if we look at that, we can see all the days in the bars are the same. We can name that as main again and save those changes. Okay, and we go back. If we want to edit some different hours for profile 2 or profile 3, we can edit some different hours in there to area 1, and then by simply sliding those, enabling them, and then pressing the save, we've gone to a different profile. I'm going to leave this in 1, so I'll toggle that on, save again. Note there that when we've done it, it lets us know that we've done it. So that also tells us in A1, 2 and 3 that the overall cutting for the week is 70 hours, which is 10 hours a day, which is the right amount for the 700 square meters. We're now back onto the settings page. So we're now going to look at the general settings and see what functions we can edit and change in there. So I'll click onto the general settings, and the first thing we can see is we can edit the name of the robot. So we'll just rename this Frankie. and apply. Go back. We can then see who we've got connected to the robot, so we can see all the various operators that are operated and connected to that robot. You're allowed up to 5 remote client connections. We can update the software. I would generally suggest not to update the software unless you've been instructed to do so by the dealer or by Ambrogio UK. Be careful. If you look at the factory reset, do bear in mind, if you go for a factory reset, this is going to reset all the settings. So if you've got a 4 or 5 different areas set up, you'll lose all of these. So this is not the answer for if you've got connection problems with the robot or anything like that. This is not the answer. We can also change with Bluetooth connection the working settings of the robot. So we can either be on manual, so that's the auto mode is disabled, or enabled. In the manual mode, the robot will be on the panel will have the green auto light out, and therefore you'll need to go to the robot to click the start button to make it operate. So we'll leave that in the automatic schedule, where it will obey the time schedule we set up in the profile settings. Here we've got installation settings. So the air marker, you're very unlikely to need to change the air marker, but the air marker refers to the charge station. The air marker in the charge station is the distance away from that the robot recognises it. Either you want it to recognise the air marker closer or further away. That would generally be something that on install you'd make a consideration for. More likely, the charging shift is something that you will want to change. So if when you're setting the robot home on installation and you note that the robot doesn't enter the charge station centrally, you can either make the robot shift to the right inside the lawn or to the left outside the lawn. But again, generally speaking, you'll not need to change that setting. The distance wire is the distance that the robot travels over the wire in mowing mode. So when it reaches the wire, the perimeter wire, it will travel in minimum about 10 centimeters over the wire, in medium about 15 centimeters over the line, and in max about 20 centimeters over the wire. So generally speaking, I would tend to move this to the minimum position and then save those settings. Always remember, if we edit anything in here, we do need to save the settings, else it'll not change it. I'm just going to change that back to max, because that's the default. If we want to change the password here, we can enter the existing password, which is written in the manual, the one that you access the robot with, and change it to a new password and repeat the password. These are numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever, and then again apply those. The keyboard lock means that this gives it some child-proof possibility there. So with the keyboard locked, you'll need to connect with the app and put your pass numbers into the app in order to be able to operate any of the buttons. The stop button will still always work. Very rarely is that particular function used. And again, if you change that function, remember to save. So we're now going to go back onto the settings page. We're back on the home screen of the Ambrogio remote app. We're now going to look at this screen and look at the charging. We see the robot's charging. It gives us the status of the battery, the status of the GSM, and the GPS. Note there's no bars in the GPS because we're inside. Let's have a look at the action buttons next. So we've got the first on the left is a robot with a time in it. That's an action button to set it off to work. The next one is the robot with a house on it. That's an action to stay in the charge station, and a border cut. Okay, the last fourth button is not functional. So if we go in here, we want it to work. We set a time up in the future. We select an area and we send it to work. And you can see that the status changes to go into the working area. When it arrives at the working area, it will start to cut. We can command it in the action button, in the second button, the robot with a house on it, to stay in the charge station until a future time. We'll ask it to stay until 1 o'clock tomorrow. Okay, we'll select Saturday and send. And now we've changed that command to stay in the charge station. And then the last of the action buttons that we can operate from here is the one with the scissors on it, which is a border cut. And as soon as we click that, the robot will leave the base station. The blades will turn on when it reaches the perimeter wire, and it will do a full circuit of the perimeter wire with the blades operating. We'll now look at, from the main page there, we'll now look at some additional functions that the app offers us. So we've shown you the setup, arrow back. Here we've got the drive. This allows us to be able, when the robot's operating inside the lawn, to be able to steer it left and right. The map button shows us the position on a map of where the robot is. And the info button gives us the information from the robot. So it tells us the firmware, the serial number. So that goes off. So that completes the tutorial for the Ambrogio remote app.